Okay, this is the village board meeting, Tuesday, April 22nd. If we'd all stand, we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Costa?
Present.
Trustee DeVivo?
Present.
Trustee Kajianis?
Present.
Trustee Sable?
Present.
Trustee Suisse?
Present.
Trustee Yukich?
Present.
Mayor Daley?
Present. Cam, I see you, on D it says approval of amendments to the agenda. What,
No, that's just a standard. If there's any changes that you want to the agenda, you
Oh.
have that, yeah.
no, it should read, are there any amendments to the
Thank you.
agenda? Are there any amendments to the agenda? Okay. How about, let's see here. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of February 25th, 2014 meeting?
So moved.
First by trustee DeVivo,
Second.
second by trustee Kajianis. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Costa?
Abstain. I was absent.
Trustee DeVivo?
Aye.
Trustee Kajianis?
Aye.
Trustee Sable?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Trustee Yukich?
No.
Okay. Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of March 25th, 2014 meeting?
So moved.
First by trustee Costa,
Second.
second by trustee DeVivo. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes.
Oh, hold on here a second. Trustee Sabo, you had something?
Yes, just a second.
Okay.
Okay, the discussion on this one had to do with the liquor ordinance. And I want to commend our clerk, Gail Scorbutin, because she listened to those minutes a number of times and countless hours. But she could only, because that's the only thing that she can do, is and did it well, to record what she heard. There were, when we received the committee's draft of the liquor amendments, there were many things in there that were crossed out. And that they weren't mentioned because they were agreed upon or not necessary to discuss. So I just wanted to say for these minutes, not everything that changed in or was amended in the ordinance is in here. Only what Gail heard at the meeting, which is rightfully and correct to have her do it that way. So if this alone was used to refer to the changes in the ordinance, it would not be complete. So I am only suggesting that the last redlined copy be attached to these minutes for reference, if that is possible.
That's fine. Okay.
And
We will.
that's my comment, that they
Okay,
be
we'll,
done.
we'll add a red line copy to the minutes. Is there any other discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee DeVivo?
Aye.
Trustee Kajianis?
Aye.
Trustee Sable?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Trustee Yukich?
No.
Okay,
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
all right, this would be F. Is there a motion to approve the accounts payable for the period of March 27th through April 23rd, 2014?
So moved.
First by trustee DeVivo,
No, second.
second by trustee Suisse. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead, trustee Sabo.
I was just handed, by our manager, Cameron Davis, two things here. One pertains to remodeling of Woodbine, and one pertains to stormwater education and membership, which should be moved to the general fund. So how are you saying we go about this?
No, those are for the budget.
Pardon me?
Yeah,
Those are
those are
for
for
the
the
Oh,
budget.
for the budget, okay.
Okay,
Okay, so I still have that. There is excuse me, on page, 24, it's mentioned, and also on page, just a second. Well, anyway, on page 24, it's capital outlay, the CIP bond fund. I would like to see that moved to another category. It shouldn't come out of that for this month of March.
Yes, I'll make that change. That wouldn't be a problem.
Okay, and then where would you place it?
Are you speaking of the membership for,
I'm talking about stormwater improvement, no, I'm talking about stormwater education and membership, 7,500 is for the Hickory Creek membership.
yeah, that's the budget item. We're going to put that in the general fund under other expenditures in a separate line item titled Stormwater Education and Membership.
Okay, and then what would you do with this, the billing for March?
It'll be corrected.
It would be corrected for
Yes.
March then?
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, is there any further comment?
Yes, I do. Just
Okay,
a
go right
second.
ahead.
John had answered some of my questions, and I just wanted to, I'm quickly looking over the answers. And where it comes under motor fuel tax, I know that in the past, when it has been a ComEd bill, it has been listed as ComEd.
On the schedule of accounts payable, it'll appear as ComEd, but that's the treasurer's report you're looking at.
Yeah.
And it's titled electric,
Yeah,
so electric streetlights.
okay.
So I
So-
think that's what you're referring to.
Yeah, because I didn't know if that was ComEd's.
It is ComEd's, and the schedule of accounts payable builds all those balances in the financial statement, so nothing's really changed there.
Okay. And then I did ask you about, there were two, there was an amount that was listed twice under the general fund and also under the motor fuel tax. And you said the payments to, and they were for street signage. There are payments to signs now for the entrance signs were originally charged to MFT, but were corrected in March, which is why it's negative in the MFT and positive in the general fund. Okay, now I understand that. Thank you.
Okay, do you have any other comments?
No, that's it.
All right, any other discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Pajanis?
Aye.
Trustee Sabo?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo?
Aye.
Motion carries. This would be G, this is an appointment. Is there a motion to approve the appointment of Cassandra Cartwright to the Village of Homer Glen's Park and Recreation Committee?
So moved.
First by trustee DeVivo,
Second.
second by trustee Costa. Is there any discussion?
I just have a quick comment, Mayor.
Yep.
I think she has a good background. She seems like she was really involved in sports, and being on the Parks Committee, I hope she, keep in mind that Woodbine will be for everyone and not just sports groups. But I think, she has a good bio.
I'm sure Marcia will relay that. Okay, is there any further discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Sabo?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo?
Aye.
Trustee Pajanis?
Aye.
Okay, the H would be, the regular meeting will be in recess for the purposes of conducting a public hearing. Is there a motion to go to open the public hearing on the Village of Homer Glen FY 2014-2015 budget.
So moved.
First by trustee Costa,
I second.
second by trustee Sweez. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oh, you know what? The village attorney said take a roll call. Could I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Suisse.
Aye.
Trustee Yukic.
Aye.
Trustee Costa.
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo.
Aye.
Trustee Kajanis.
Aye.
Trustee Sabo.
Aye.
Motion carries. The public hearing on the proposed 2014-15 budget is open for comments. The public hearing is designed to allow residents to state their opinions and/or concerns. It is not a question and answer session. Given that, is there anyone that wishes to comment on the village's proposed budget? Go right ahead, Dennis. Name and address for the record.
Dennis Irving, 12250 West 30 Lane, Homer Glen. Good job on this, Cameron. Got about 75 pages he put together here, and took a lot of work, I'm sure. I have a number of questions concerning this budget. Well, not questions, but I have some things that I don't quite understand. I'm not an accountant, don't claim to be, but there's a few things in there that give me a little bit of a problem. I think that the passing of this budget should be postponed. I think there should be some type of special meeting where folks like myself and maybe a few others will have a chance to come in here and meet with Cameron, perhaps the village attorney and the treasurer, and get some explanations on some of these things that are troubling us. One thing that stands on my mind is on, I forget what page is, 70-something. It mentions the Alpicon for 159th Street, the payment of that out of the bond fund. And I believe that it was said with the passage of video gaming, that video gaming money would be used to pay for the Alpicon installations throughout the village. So I guess my statement, I'm not going to give an answer, but I guess my statement is, why is it listed under the bond fund when it should be under general revenue? So I think that, and by the way, I was told that the budget has to be into Will County by May 1st. And speaking with Christie at the Will County Clerk's office today, she said not necessarily. You have up to 30 days after passage to get it submitted to the county. If you don't make it by then, they'll get a little bit frisky with you, but she said you do have up to 30 days after passage of the budget. So it doesn't necessarily have to be passed tonight, and I, for one, if I get an opportunity to meet the people I previously mentioned to discuss a few of the items that are just sitting a little bit on my mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there anybody else that'd like to speak in public comment? Go ahead, John. Name and address for the record.
John Coy, 12056 Venetian Way, Orland Park, Illinois. I just have a couple well, I have a few. Page 17, salaries projected. Actual was 384,000. Now we're having a request for 513,000. In there, and I don't understand who's going to receive a merit performance and what the funds are in that account. The intern contract went from in 2014 from 11,230, then in 2014 it's up to 14,000. Now all of a sudden it's been requested that it goes up even to 20,736. To me, that's an awful lot of money for an increase for an intern. If I'm not mistaken, he's only here, what, once a month? If that. I haven't seen him but one time. Safety public liaison, 15,000. Have no idea who it is. What's it? Does it involve the high school? Does it involve the building here? Is it, what's the building liaison? That's on page 19. The intern was on page 18. Page 22, personnel salaries. In 2013, it was 40,000. Now all of a sudden, we're up to 86,500. Big increase there too. Total for the economic development. Now, starting out at 86,000, up to 106,000. There's a big increase there, way over what I would surmise would be for this day and age in the economy the way it is. The county didn't even get a raise. All of a sudden, we're talking $26,000 a year raise. Economic development, big difference there, 52 to 132,000. Land acquisition fund, almost doubled, from 60,000 to 1,101,000. That's on page 41. Page 53. Transfer of general funds, 1,500,000. There's another question. Where'd that come from? We're transferring all this money. I think that there should be a meeting where people can ask questions, like Dennis just suggested. We have no idea, and I don't think anybody out of all the people that were here previous to this meeting knew where all this money was going, where it came from, or anything. We had to argue to get a copy just so we could see where some of this stuff was going. And we still can't figure out where it came from or where it goes. Page 56. Okay, bond principal, 1,315,000. Bond interest, 68,000. Total, 1,996,000. Now, in the ordinance, which you read from earlier, or took one paragraph out of, ordinance 12-039, to be tax sufficient and to be able to pay the bond off. In ordinance, a sum amount of $2,800,000 be paid yearly. Is that right, John?
This isn't question and answer.
Okay.
I'll
In other words,
I'll have John.
that I'd like to find out too, because
I'll have John address some of your comments after public comment.
the ordinance says this is what should be put in there yearly, and then all of a sudden, I didn't see no place on the thing where $2,800,000 was even entered anywhere. Then all of a sudden, okay, page 58, 59, beginning balance, $4,135,000. Village Hall remodeling, $2,250,000. I don't. There's a lot of big monies in things that all of a sudden it's where's it coming from, where's it going. Page 67, bond money was for Homer Glen's. At the meeting, and the minutes were written, I have them with me, and you know yourself, because you read the ordinance, the third paragraph on the first or second page. It was written after the meeting, and everybody that was at that bond meeting was under the assumption that what our trustees said, that money should be used for three purposes. And Finneman Creek and all the rest of them were on the back burner until we got funding somewhere else, and the bond money should not be used for this stuff. And as this right here, flood control units, $10,000. Sewer lines, Opticom, not supposed to be used there. Why are we doing all of this stuff that's not supposed to be, you're not supposed to use the money for this stuff?
Thank you. John, you want to answer any of these? Well, first of all, does anybody else want to make comment? Okay. If there's no more public comment, then I ask for a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
So moved.
First by trustee DeVivo. Second by trustee K. Janis. Please call the roll.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo?
Aye.
Trustee K. Janis?
Aye.
Trustee Sabo?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Motion carries. The meeting will be called back to order. Before we go to reports and communications from the mayor and other officers, John, do you want to briefly? I heard a lot about, these are simply transfers from one account to the other. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, he started out with salaries, and he was talking about the 10-month number through fiscal 14, and comparing that to the budget for fiscal 15. So you're missing 2 months there. The some of the other departments had vacancies, so when you look at what, you know, they're not increases, they're positions that were filled, so you're extrapolating the full year next year. The intern was paid out of the salary line item in 14, and he's gonna be paid out of the, it's a contract with Northern Illinois for 15. But really, the one thing I wanted to point out was Fund 65 is the debt service fund, which only has home rule sales tax and bonds. And for fiscal 14, it's gonna have a surplus of about $400,000 or $500,000 to be available to retire debt early. And in fiscal 15, it's budgeted to have a $500,000 surplus. So, the $2.8 million that you talked about, I think was part of the original bond ordinance, which had a huge authorization amount, a $25 million authorization amount. We never did that. You know, we did significantly less. So there's a lot of things out of context, and that's the way numbers are. If you know,
Okay,
every situation is
Mayor,
unique.
we're always happy to, the only exception I would make is, and you'll agree, they came and got the budgets, and I came out and asked them to copy them and give them to them. We gave budgets to 4 people that asked for them from the public. They all got full, complete copies, all 70, however many pages they are. But we're always happy to meet with people. I mean, John and I, on the day that John is here, because everybody knows he's only here a couple days a week, we're happy to sit down with 1 hour, 2 hours over coffee, whatever, and answer every single question, because there'll be a good answer for everyone.
good. John, do you see anything,
However many questions, they got 100, we'll answer them all.
do you see anything out of line with the proposed budget?
No, it's a balanced budget. There's a lot of significant endeavors with the capital projects, which is common. You build up funds to pay for significant capital project work, and that's what we're doing. We're gonna make that final balloon payment on the tollway, so a lot of good things and a lot of big numbers. That is true.
Okay, thank you. All right, then the next portion of this meeting would be reports and communications from the mayor and other officers. The village received notice last week that Standard & Poor's has elevated the village's bond rating from AA to AA+. The new rating is based on several factors, most notably the village's strong management policies and good financial practices. This is excellent news that continues to prove the point that Homer Glen is a great investment. Under economic development update, at the last village board meeting, I reported that Homer Glen will soon have its first ever full-service independent bakery. Our Tessa Bakery will occupy the former Something Sweet Cupcake Boutique at 14045 South Bell Road. I'm happy to announce that our Tessa Bakery will open at the end of April. I also have more great news to share with all of you. Another Homer Glen entrepreneur has signed a lease for a 2,078 square foot place next to Backyard Games at the Ruby Agave building on 159th Street. The location will be the new home of Style Me Couture, a bridal and evening wear showroom and rental business. The store's address, a gap in Homer Glen's current business mix, addresses a gap in Homer Glen's business mix. Under cleanup, Spring Creek and Meadow Creek. Meadowview and Spring Creek Trail include detention ponds that were severely overgrown with significant amounts of standing water. The standing water posed health concerns in the adjacent property owners, both in terms of attracting mosquitoes and the inherent safety issue of high water for young children. At the village board's meeting, August 13th meeting, a proposal from Homer Tree Care Service was approved, allowing the cleaning of approximately 0.68 acres in the Meadowview subdivision detention pond at Sparrow Court and Trailside. Homer Tree Care Service also cleaned approximately 1.5 acres in the Spring Creek Trail subdivision detention pond at Mackinac Road and Bell Road. Homer Tree Care cleaned an area approximately 100 feet wide on each of the ponds, 50 feet on each side of the main channel flowing through the ponds. Now that the area has been cleared by Homer Tree Care, both the village and the highway department staff will be able to better determine the cause of the blockages and attempt to remove them, thus allowing the water to flow. Now let's continue reports from trustees. I'll start down with Trustee DeVivo.
Just a quick comment. I want to thank everyone for voting in Cassandra Courtright to the Parks and Recreation Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee DeVivo. Trustee Suisse?
I will save my report for next week. Next month.
Okay. Trustee Kate Janis?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, just really quickly. Earlier, we announced about 4 ribbon cuttings today for new businesses in Homer Glen. Backyard games with custom-made games for your backyard. Impressive shop that they have there. The other one is Simply Salsa, used to be next door. Product is excellent. You got a chance to taste it. The other one is Ruby Agave, excellent food. What a great job with the atmosphere and the decor inside. Looks like a whole new place. So, and the other one is CrossFit. They have classes there for the public. It's all located at 12622 159th Street. Wish them all the best of luck. They have some dynamic products and services to offer the community. And thank you to Cameron and Janie and staff for organizing this four address ribbon cutting. It was right on task. Thank you. Other announcement I'd like to make is one of our insurance agency, Michelle Coakley, who happens to be also the president of the Chamber of Commerce and with the insurance company located at 14051 Bell Road, is having her 5-year anniversary coming up here in Homer Glen. She wants to have a customer appreciation day at her State Farm business on Saturday, May 23rd at 12 p.m. Food, beverages, and more. She just wants to send a message out to say thank you to her customers and to the community. So again, congratulations to all these locations. That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Trustee Kate Janis. Just a little follow-up for Simply Salsa. It was really nice to hear that she landed 15 different accounts with Mariano's. So she's making the salsa here in Homer Glen, and she'll be supplying 15 locations for Mariano's. Trustee Sabo?
Okay, I'm reporting for the Environment Committee, and I'm going to be talking about Earth Day as the first topic. And it's to take place at Kona Farm in Homer Glen on May 17th, 11 to 4. There's no entrance fee, and parking is free. Since 2008, the event has been very well attended. There will be a green market and good products from which to purchase. Good selections. Many children's activities will be available, such as pony rides, hands-on activity, educational opportunities, and Home Depot will provide craft projects. Booths will have energy-saving ideas, outdoor living and gardening ideas, eco cars, and antique cars will be on display. Live animals will be shown by Amazing Bats, Illinois Horse Rescue of Will County, Illinois Raptors, Birds of Prey, and Pilcher Park Nature Center. A performance will take place from 1:30 to 2:30 by cold-blooded creatures featuring Baba the alligator and other reptiles such as a python and tortoise. And I'm saving a surprise that Walter Kono has put in one of his buildings that the children will love. It's duplicating panning for gold. No gold, but you get something else. And the Environment Committee is looking for more people who create projects from recycled materials and items from natural sources. Demonstrations are welcome. Not-for-profit groups are encouraged to share their information. The Environment Committee is seeking new members who are interested in assisting with the committee's goals. You can contact the village and get more information. Second topic is Arbor Day 2014. The Arbor Day tree planting is scheduled for Friday, April 25th, that's this Friday, at 4:30 p.m. at the Northwest Fire Station near Goodings Grove. A red oak tree will be planted that is 5 to 6 inches in diameter and about 20 feet tall. The public is invited to attend and watch the tree being planted. April 25th is the actual day that is designated for Arbor Day in Illinois, and the tree will be planted on the 25th if the ground is suitable to handle large equipment. Otherwise, another day will be selected. And we'll inform the public of that, inform the board, mayor and manager, and trustees. The fire department has taken very good care of a large bur oak that was planted by the Environment Committee in 2002. This was the first tree planted for Arbor Day in Homer Glen. That's my report.
Thank you, trustee Sabo. Trustee Yukich?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All I'm gonna do is be reporting on a bunch of emails that I've gotten from residents in the village about the park that we are going to be going into. And I didn't bring all of them because I didn't wanna make this a midnight meeting, but you had your ones that didn't have any information on it, that they were just trying to find out what we were doing, for the sports groups. But the other ones that came in, mostly were positive. Certainly, the majority of citizens support the idea of more parks and practice fields for the children, but please encourage the board to first seek public input and then develop a plan, timeline, and a means to pay for the plan, which we haven't done yet. Another one here was directed at the sports groups. And it said, since you are an advocate, this is directed towards the, all three of them. Since you're an advocate of the Woodbine reconstruction and having committed to promoting it on the Stallion's website, kindly provide the following as well. Where did the initial payment come for the purchase of Woodbine? What are the projected figures on the cost of build-out for office space, which we don't know yet, as well as the infrastructure for the fields, which we don't know yet, before any type of sports field can be built? Where will the money be coming from to finish these projects? Again, we don't know that. Are we aware that such actions can initiate referendum to initiate a park district, which will add a municipal tax, diminish the existence or need of all sports groups? Since the sports groups are according to your letter, a huge advantage of these advancements, will they be making considerable donations to aid in the construction of the facility in which they will use? Why do I not see information from the Homer Athletic Club website confirming their personal support, as you have indicated they have shared support? Then it says on the bottom, please do not misinterpret my intentions. The purpose of the letter to make sure that you make an educated decision, you back an entity in which you do not have all the answers for. If you cannot provide answers to these questions, then I strongly suggest you revisit your alliance before committing to any entity. And there's another one that's just way too long, but all they're saying is that we have to do our due diligence. That's what we were elected for. And their opinion of what this should be done is pretty much what we have talked about too, is create a master plan for the property, seek public input, which tonight is the first one we did, and this was kind of a surprise one, because all of a sudden letters started popping up. You gotta come to this meeting and you gotta speak out. You gotta tell everyone that you don't want this to be a golf course. Again, all the people were misled, because that's not what the intention was. So we need to start being a little bit more transparent with this board, working together, not one person going out and trying to make deals for the whole board and then coming to us and saying, well, this is what I want to do. This is something that should be discussed with the village before anything is done, and it is not. And all I'm saying is, for right now, everything that does come before this, if we don't have the information, I will not vote on it, and I will explain why each time. There's too many things that are getting past this board, and then we find out after the fact that what we were told is not what was being done. One example was Dottie's. I went over the tape from the night of the meeting, and I also went over YouTube. When I listened to it, the man from Dottie's came up and said that he would do whatever it took to get a license to be able to do what he wants. He said he would go along with what the ordinance was. Now, after everything's said and done, we're told that we have to grandfather them in, because we did give them a license, and the whole thing is we were all pushed very hard to give a license for this thing. We didn't do our homework before we did this. We should have done our homework, and I accept just as much responsibility as anybody else. But then when I got a notice from the lawyers, and at the end of the meeting, Cameron had said that we will get a hold of you within the next few weeks and let you know what the outcome is from the liquor ordinance. Unfortunately, the liquor ordinance wasn't finished until 6 months later, maybe 7. In the meantime, they were given a building permit and they moved into a building. Ordinance changed, and now we're told that we have to grandfather them in, or we don't have to. I guess we still have an option where we could say no, but it wouldn't be fair to the business that wants to come in here. My issue is,
We say things before we should say things. We do things before they should be completed. We do not take enough time to look into every single solitary thing that could affect this village. And I myself am getting real tired of it. Because if we discuss something and this is what is said, that's exactly what should be done, and it's not happening here. And then when I read the comments from the village, from some of the residents, they feel the exact same way. This is not the way government should be run. We are here, we're a small community, and we are here for the people of this village. And that's exactly the way we should be doing our business, and we are not. That's my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, trustee Yukich. Trustee Costa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to report for our Fest Committee. Our Fest is scheduled for June 26th through June 29th. That's Thursday through Sunday. Fireworks night is also scheduled for the 26th, which is Thursday night, with Friday night being a rain night, just in case Thursday's bad. We also have our parade on that Saturday. 10 o'clock lineup, 11 o'clock the parade kicks off. It'll be the same route as we have had for a number of years. You line up on 151st Street, and the parade will go from 151st and Parker, north on Parker, past the park, and then end just south of 143rd Street. If you want to get involved or participate in the parade, you can call the Homer Township Administration Building. They have applications that are going to be available, so you can get a parade lineup. Now, for bands, I reported earlier, we do have a number of good bands this year, as we always do. Thursday night, Maggie Speaks will be performing. Friday night, 80s Enough will open up the evening with High Infidelity, the second band. On Saturday, Reverend Bob, then Crazy Uncles, Sinister Finch, and then Infinity will end up on Saturday. It's been a long night here tonight. I'm sorry, I apologize. Infinity. Sunday, we have got Forecast and then One of These Nights. So we've got great bands coming out again. Pretty much every kind of music you can think of is going to be played there. One thing the group is looking at this year, our committee, is having a special night, which would be Thursday. It will be earlier, right before, a couple hours before the event starts. We're looking to have a special needs event. This would be open to residents of our community whose children have special needs, who at times just can't get to the facility and get around the park, and especially the amusement park, when you have hundreds and hundreds of kids. So next meeting, hopefully, I can report the final plans for that. We're hoping to get, again, residents with kids with special needs out there so they can enjoy the amusement park and the games without hundreds and thousands of kids running all around them. So I think it's going to be a great event for the community. Once again, community service and volunteering. If you're a high school student, you need community service, it's a very good opportunity for you. You can call the Village Hall or the Township Administration Building. Put your name in. Trust me, you will be contacted to come out and volunteer your time. Mr. Mayor, that's my report.
Thank you, trustee Costa. Does the treasurer have a report?
Yes, Mayor, I have the treasurer's report of cash and investments as of March 31st, 2014. It's the 11th month of fiscal 14, progressing along really well. The general fund had cash and investments of $6,245,947.53. The motor fuel tax fund had a balance of $2,107,494.35. The park fund had a cash and investment balance of $889,498.58. And the capital project fund had a balance of $21,854,936.28. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, John. Okay, does the clerk have a report?
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Does the village attorney have a report?
Village attorney has no report this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is there any task force chairpersons have any reports tonight? Okay. How about any public safety officials? Okay. Does the village manager have a report?
Thank you, Mayor and Board. I have a couple items. First, I want to wish Trustee Sabo a very happy birthday. Today is her birthday, so God bless and
Happy birthday.
healthy and happy year ahead.
Thank you, thank you.
49.
49 forever.
Then I have just a couple other items, Mayor. I mentioned earlier when you were under the public comment section that anybody that has questions about the budget from the public, we'd be happy to sit down with. So you just call John, and John will schedule a time that him and I can sit down. He's here tomorrow if you want to give a call. He can schedule up an appointment with you at your convenience. The monthly totals for state video gaming are out for March. They increased about 21,000 here. The net terminal video gaming income increased about 21,000 up to 71,200. That'll be in my weekly report for you to review. We have selected the committee. The RFQ committee, we've been kind of referring to it, has recommended 3 firms for the board to consider in terms of architectural services. And that is Williams Architects, White, W-I-G-H-T, and Dewberry Architects. And these are the architects that the board will be getting presentations from. I've distributed the RFQ documents from those 3 firms. We also have the other 19 or 18, I guess, copies from the other firms that are in my office if anybody would like to compare and contrast. But those are the 3 firms. You have on your agenda tonight a suggestion for a meeting, a special meeting, just to hear those presentations. And so I can answer any questions about that when we get to it. This coming month, at the start of the month, just to give you a little heads up, we'll have at least 3, if not 4 more ribbon cuttings. Sleepy's Mattress Professionals are going to be moving into their store here in the next couple of weeks. We have one that we have to catch up with the mortgage. And then, of course, the bakery that the mayor mentioned earlier, and there's one more that I'm forgetting. So we have 4 ribbon cuttings coming up in addition to the 4 that we did today. And finally, the last item I think that I'd just like to report on is that Scott Chance and I have been spending, Scott is our staff person that I've kind of charged with finding out as much information as he can possibly about the Woodbine building. You know, he does all of our plan review and most of our plan review, and he's very knowledgeable in these matters. So him and I have been spending quite a bit of time kind of analyzing, looking, doing measurements of square footage in an effort to kind of compare and contrast a little bit between this building and the Woodbine building that's there. So we are available for any of the trustees to sit down and meet with on an individual basis or in groups of 2, whatever you'd like to do. I know Trustee DeVivo was in the office today. She stopped in and wanted a little better understanding, so we sat down with her. I think you found it useful in terms of the square footage. So anybody else that would like to do that, please give me a call or text or email me, and we'll, Scott and I will make ourselves available to you and sit down with you. Mayor, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next portion of the meeting would be public comment.
God bless you.
Thank you. Okay, let's see here. The only speaker tonight is Lynn McGarry. Lynn, name and address for the record.
Glen McGarry,
Just pull that down.
14104, Garibogue, Homer Glen. I'm not even going to say Orland Park. I'm just here on behalf of the chamber to invite you all to our golf outing. It's going to be on June 6th at Old Oak, and it's going to be a morning one with a 2 o'clock luncheon instead of late in the evening, and I hope you all consider it, and I'll give you all a flyer before I leave.
Thank you, Lynn. Okay, that concludes public comment. The next items on the agenda are the legislation and action items. This would be K1. Is there a motion to approve a proclamation designating May 4th through May 10th, 2014 as Municipal Clerks Week in the Village of Homer Glen?
So moved.
First by Trustee K. Janice.
Second.
Second by Trustee DeVivo. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo?
Aye.
Trustee K. Janice?
Aye.
Trustee Sabo? Aye. Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Motion carries. This would be K2. Is there a motion to approve the attached proclamation declaring April 25th, 2014 as Arbor Day in the Village of Homer Glen?
I so move.
First by Trustee Sabo.
Second.
Second by Trustee K. Janice. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee DeVivo?
Aye.
Trustee Kate Janice?
Aye.
Trustee Sabo?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve a proclamation in support of Earth Day, Arbor Day on May 17, 2014?
I so move.
First by trustee Sabo,
I second.
second by trustee Costa. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Kate Janice?
Aye.
Trustee Sabo?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo?
Aye.
Motion carries. This would be K4. Is there a motion to approve a contract with TLC Group for landscape maintenance services of Village Park and Bike Trail properties from April 1st, 2014 through November 30th, 2014?
I so move.
It is understood that this particular agreement will not exceed $26,613.60 for landscape maintenance services rendered during the 2014 season.
So moved.
First by trustee Sabo.
Second.
Second by, that was trustee DeVivo. Is there any discussion?
I just had a question.
Sure.
In the past, it has not included the corner on 151st and Bell. Does this include the corner?
No, I don't believe so, no.
No? Okay, thank you.
I would just follow up on that, though. I think one of our challenges with, one of the reasons it didn't is because there was a level of dissatisfaction on how the vendor that we had selected, which is not this vendor, how they were mowing that parcel. So if there is a desire to give this vendor a try and see if they would be able to cut that space in a way that meets everyone's expectations, then we could potentially do that. It would be, we could talk about doing that.
But it's not in here now.
It is not in here now.
Well, we are happy with the way things have been going.
Okay.
And there's a timing on certain things for mulch and for using certain products, and it's outlined. I think a firm like this probably wouldn't want to do it.
Sure, just an option.
Okay.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Sabo?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo?
Aye.
Trustee Kate Janice?
Aye.
Motion carries. This would be K5. Is there a motion to recommend approval of the release of the letter of credit for the Crystal Creek Estate subdivision in the amount of $88,253.08? It is understood that this is a full and complete release of the LOC associated with the project.
So moved.
First by trustee Costa.
I second.
Second by trustee Suisse. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo?
Aye.
Trustee Kate Janice?
Aye.
Trustee Sabo?
Aye.
Motion carries. This would be K6. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 14-022, an ordinance adopting the proposed Village of Homer Glen budget for fiscal year beginning May 1st, 2014 and ending April 30th, 2015?
I so move.
First by trustee Sabo.
Second.
Second by trustee Kate Janice. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Yes, no.
Go ahead, trustee Suisse.
I have a few questions.
Go right ahead.
Do I have to, if I wanted to?
I would direct them to
Oh,
the finance director.
Well, no, it's a procedure. If I wanted to change something, like say, for example, in the stormwater, do I have to propose a motion to remove stormwater from the CIP bond fund?
That question would be a question for the attorney.
So like he said, the stormwater education membership is going to be removed from the CIP bond fund. It's going to be put into the general fund, line items, membership, and communication.
Okay,
So do I have to get that done? Do I have to make a motion?
yes.
Okay. So when we get to that part, I will. Okay.
Okay,
Or
you just
should
have to,
I-
all-
Would he amend-
you should ask John the question about whether that's necessary to do.
We would have no problem doing that. It's just a switch. It wouldn't really, it would of course reduce the capital, the bond fund's expenditure from the proposed budget. If we did that, moved it to the general fund, we would reduce the contingency by the same amount. So the total general fund expenditures would remain the same.
Okay, right.
So it wouldn't be
Okay,
a problem.
does anybody on the board have a problem with trustee Sweez's recommendation?
And Mayor, I just want to say, that's what I handed out earlier. There are actually two items, and
Okay.
just for trustee, just if I could, Mike, speak on your behalf. Trustee Costa had another suggestion, and so you see that on the document that I handed out just a little bit ago. There's one from trustee Suisse and one from trustee Costa.
Okay,
You might
now-
want to do them both at the same time if you're so inclined.
Okay, so the other change that trustee Costa was recommending is to rename line item number 70-00-85-605, currently called Village Hall Remodeling Project, to Woodbine Property Renovations. Does anybody have an issue with that? Trustee Costa?
Mr. Mayor, just to explain, I thought I'd give us more latitude for this next year.
Okay,
Again, we don't know if we have we're gonna need to spend 2.5 on the building, but in case something comes up, if it just says the whole renovation, we can use it in emergency for that park.
okay. Does anybody have an issue with renaming it from Village Hall Remodeling Project to Woodbine Property Renovations? Okay, then we will make,
So the motion would, the question would be to ask trustee Sabo, would you amend your motion to include those two revisions to the budget?
Well, I would, but I have some other questions that may do some more amending. So should I go on? We go on? Okay.
go ahead, trustee Sabo. Oh, finish up, trustee
I'm
Costa.
sorry, no, just one question. Just for point of clarification and confusion, do you think it would be okay if we made the changes based on, as we go, instead of saying, are we okay with making all the changes at one time? There might be
Okay.
confusion.
Page by
It's
page.
just an idea. Can we do it? I think it might be a little bit easier for
The
them.
easier thing to do is just to go through,
Each
you know,
one and
start
amend
with
each one?
this list, and so, and to see if anybody else has other changes, and then we'll just add them to these.
Okay, that's
add them
fine.
To this list.
That's fine.
Okay,
Okay.
trustee Sabo, you had a comment?
Yes, on page 4, under Public Safety Liaison of $15,000 is under the general fund. I'm concerned that it is in here at all. I would like to see this removed. I don't think it's our place as a municipality to pay for a police liaison. Other communities are not doing that. I don't believe it belongs in there. We haven't paid it for a while. Crestill isn't paying it. And what happens in other high school district is that the high school district pays for it. So I am recommending that it be removed.
Okay, we did have some discussion about, we originally helped share what the cost of a police officer at one point in time. You're correct, Crest Hill decided they were not going to be involved in that payment. They are attending the same school. We did decide not to pay it. This is not the full amount. This is basically a donation to help pay the salary. I guess I have to ask the board if they want to leave this in the budget or they don't want to leave it in the budget. This is, if I have it correct, this is the police officer that we were referring to over at the high school. Trustee Sabo?
Yes,
Okay.
that is correct.
Yeah, Mayor,
And-
if I could just add a little bit more, which I mentioned during my budget presentation. This is really a place setter in the budget. The board, obviously, if you keep it in the budget, the board in the future would have to vote on whether or not you were going to contribute to the program. The Administration and Finance Committee meeting, I think 2 months ago, suggested that I set up a meeting with Mr. Benson from Lockport and sit down and just talk about this and then report back to the committee. That meeting actually is scheduled for this week. It's been scheduled for a while. And I was going to report back to Administration and Finance, obviously, at your next meeting. And then if the committee wants to recommend something forward to the board, then you could do that. And then, of course, it would come to the board. So as I mentioned during my budget presentation, it's just in there as a place setter.
Okay.
It does not
get
mean
it.
that the money is going to be
I get
sent,
it.
because the board has to make that decision in the future.
Right. As Cam explained, until we talk with Lockport, we're not committing to, spending the money. He's putting it as a place setter in the budget in the event that we want to participate in that program. Does anybody have a problem leaving it as a place setter until we hear back from Lockport?
No, but can I make a comment? So if he's meeting with Mr.
report.
Benson? Because my comment was like similar, why isn't Lockport High School spreading that out over everybody to include the unincorporated areas? Like Andrew High School, they must do that, and it goes all the way, goes into directly, they pay Tinley
Right.
Park directly.
Right. I think it's
So
a
why
really-
isn't Lockport High
Right.
School doing that to Lockport?
Right, I think it's a good question, I can ask him that question on
Okay.
Thursday. I've got a list of things I actually want to ask him about it. The book on this is the file on this is pretty thick. I think before I got here, you had a lot of conversations about this, and I know that at one point Crest Hill did pull out, and then everything kind of fell apart. Because I think the board at one point had, actually this board, or previous boards, had approved re-upping the contribution, but it was contingent upon Crest Hill also participating, and then they decided not to, and so that never happened and the contribution stopped. I think what Lockport would just like for us to consider is maybe not that full amount that you used to contribute, but just some kind of donation to help offset a little bit of the cost of the officer. And so I have a list of questions, Trustee Speaks, I can add that to it and see if they've asked anybody else. And any other questions, at that meeting, I think is Thursday at noon. Any other questions people have, send them to me on email, and I can give those to Ben and get some answers back.
Okay. I don't see any problem leaving it as a place setter. We all, if we decide on it, it has to come back to the board to be approved. So how
Well-
about we just leave it as a place setter for now?
I'll agree with that because it bears more discussion. I really feel that the previous decision that was made, that if Crest Hill doesn't, that Homer Glen shouldn't either, because we all our children feed into that high school.
Okay, did you have anything else there, Trustee Sabo?
Yes, I did. I have a question about page 18, Parks and Recreation Fund, $50,000. And I know the discussion was about, there is no indoor recreation here, and Orland Park could provide it. I'd like to know what. A little more about this, what they could provide and who is going to benefit from it.
Right. I'd be happy to elaborate. At the budget presentation, I mentioned one of the things that the Park and Recreation Committee has been discussing on and off for a little while is the reality that although the community certainly has a goal, it's in our park plan, of ultimately having indoor facilities like a pool and things of that nature, it's in the long-term park plan, that the reality of that happening within the next couple years is probably not high. So one of the things the Park Recreation Committee has asked staff to do, which we've done, is a little research about adjoining communities and what people that live, we'll use Orland as an example. People that live in Orland, in the Orland, city of Orland, what they pay for going to classes and swimming and stuff like that, and then what residents in Homer Glen pay out of district. And they want to see that. We've put that all together for the committee. I think that Marcia has that on her next agenda. And then a continued discussion about possibly coming up with some system where the Village of Homer Glen could potentially help to subsidize Homer Glen residents who want to, not just Orland Park, there's we're surrounded by 3 communities actually that have indoor facilities. And so it's a place setter for an item that a committee is discussing, similar to the resource officer. It may be ultimately that the Park and Recreation Committee decides not to forward anything to the board to consider, or they may ultimately forward something to the board to consider, and it's in there as a place setter for that. Trustee DeVivo, is that a fair?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that
Okay.
was an initiative that Trustee DeVivo asked, just like a number of you asked for specific initiatives, that was one of her initiatives.
Well, I know at this time that any resident from Homer Glen could join in any park district activity, whether it be indoor or outdoor, whatever the program is. and then they would just pay a little extra.
They pay a premium. an
Yeah,
out-of-district
resident,
rate.
non-resident.
Right, so, so is that what the committee is thinking about, that then the village would help offset that cost for the resident, so the
Right.
resident wouldn't be paying that extra?
Right, and so the first step is they wanted to see what the difference was for in-district versus out-of-district rates. In other words, what somebody who lives in town here would pay to Lamont or to Orland or to Lockport. And then they're probably, I'm assuming, they're gonna wanna see us do some financial projections on if the Village of Homer Glen helped to offset 10% of that cost or 20% of that cost, what that would mean, with some projections. Maybe they're gonna want us to contact those different communities and see how many Homer Glen, if they can provide us with how many Homer Glen residents are currently members. So it's really a work in progress. Marcia's been working on it with her committee for a number of months. I just wanted to make sure that if a recommendation came before the board and you decided you wanted to support that, that there would be a line item in the budget that would allow for that to happen. But obviously, a number of decisions would have to be made in order for that to happen.
Okay, and so this would be done on an individual basis, so whether a family wanted to partake or a child wanted to partake, it's individual, it's not
Yeah.
for a group.
No, it's, what actually ends up happening, I think, is the Village of Homer Glen would enter into some agreements with the three, probably the three entities or whoever would want to enter into an agreement with us. And every time a resident from Homer Glen wanted to become a member of one of these three entities, they would be told that there is a support program that helps to subsidize your out-of-district rates. And, would you like to participate in this? And then we would end up getting a notice from either Orland or or the Lockport Park District or Lamont, and then we would pay that invoice on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, so it bears more investigation and so
Right.
forth, so it is a place setter, so I'll just,
Yep.
now I understand that.
Okay,
I did have another.
okay.
Page 28, under Parks and Recreation Fund, we did talk about this for trail maintenance and repair, and I believe the answer was that, well, the trail's in pretty good condition, and it probably doesn't need a line item, but we never know what the weather is going to do. We never know if there's going to be some vandalism to the trail. And so I would like to see a line item for repair and maintenance of the trail system.
Not for asphalt.
Trustee Sabo, did you say page 28?
18?
Well, I thought it was 28, could be wrong.
It's the
Let's
Park and
see.
Rec's budget, and you want to add a repair and maintenance line for the trail.
Well,
correct?
wait a minute, what page is it?
I believe that's
18?
18.
18, yes, it is, I had page 18 and that's true.
I think the reason why, I agree that that would be a typical line item that we would want to put in. I think the trails, we're fortunate that the trails that we currently control are in such good shape. We thought we could wait a little while longer for that. Michael, if you feel differently, I don't know if we have any impending, we're not really talking about fences, we're just talking about pavement.
Yeah, I mean, except for like probably one minor location, everything else is in very good shape at this point.
That is the answer that I remember, except that we don't know what the weather will, something will take place to destroy something, or there could be vandalism. And that is my concern. If there isn't anything in there to repair it, then we're going to have to find a place, a way. So I'm just trying to be proactive on this point.
I would honestly say that I think that we're going to be okay with that. You have not, here's the other reason I say that. You actually, over the past couple of years, you have not spent all the money that you budgeted for in the Park and Recreation Fund. And so there's usually a little leeway there in case something like that would come up. I would not expect it to be a lot of money. So I would say for this year, we're probably in pretty good shape. If we do have an issue that comes up and there needs to be a trail improvement for some reason, I would bring it to the attention of the board, and we would suggest a place setter line item for it to go into. You will not spend more than you've budgeted in Parks and Rec this next year. So I think overall the fund will be in good shape. You don't really need to add a line item for that. I wouldn't even know how much to add if you did add a line item at this point, quite frankly.
Okay, well, if you're confident about
Yeah,
this, and
very
if something
confident.
happens, we'll know about
I'll
it.
bring it to your attention.
Okay.
Trustee Costa may add a question.
Yeah, just a point of
dovetailing
clarification
yours.
with
Go ahead.
trustee Sable saying, so at the end of the year, we are anticipating $1,797,000 in surplus in that fund, correct?
Money in the bank, essentially, a fund
Okay.
balance.
So, for
A
example.
surplus fund balance, correct.
That's if we spend everything that we're anticipated, which I would guess we don't typically do.
I
So-
realize it. So, as trustee Sable, I just want to make sure we all understand this correctly. As trustee Sable mentioned, that let's say we have a very bad storm that comes through, and one of the creeks back up, and it floods the path, and it lifts the asphalt, and there's a
Right.
$8,000 repair.
Right.
We can just go into this fund and take it without having a contingency line item?
You
And what- I mean, I just want to make sure we're okay with doing that.
Yes, I think we'll be perfectly fine
Okay,
in that
I just wanna
regard.
make sure.
As we would, if there were any kind of emergency expenditure like that happened, we would be able to pay for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, trustee Sabo, you have anything else?
Sorry.
Yes, I believe that, that we, on page 21, that was removed on the stormwater education. And, oh, no, yes, but that's not, this is on page 21 about stormwater improvement project. It's $26,079. I want to make sure, because it seemed to be a low figure, that this would be for stormwater improvement project. Maybe it's listed somewhere else.
Do you have your notes? Where are your notes? Do you have your notes?
Page 21.
I'll have to look it up. We have notes for all this stuff, so if you give them just a couple of minutes, I'll look.
Because I know that we had intended to do more than that.
Right, there is a much larger budget under capital for stormwater.
Okay, so if I may ask our attorney if this is a question and it needs to, and this cost needs to be increased, what do we do here for the motion?
No, it doesn't need to be increased, it is somewhere else.
It
Okay,
is somewhere
There are
else.
multiple line items that deal with stormwater. So, John, why don't you explain this one?
The $26,029 budgeted on page 21 under stormwater improvement projects is the balance of the Oak Valley Grant project.
What's the balance?
It's the closeout to finish that.
Okay, so.
And that's why it's not in the bond fund.
Okay,
Because it
so,
was, the money to pay for it is in this fund. It's
Yeah.
funds, capital project.
all right,
Fund
so
7.
there is money in there for other projects.
Oh, yes,
Stormwater.
there's quite a bit.
Okay, and then I know that in the binder was mentioned, the Opticon coming out of CIP bond money, is that also being removed? Because it was, from the very beginning, when we heard about video gaming, money was supposed to be paid from video gaming for Opticon.
John can explain that for you.
Pardon me?
John can explain that for you.
I was just looking to see how much.
He needs to look and see what the
It was,
amounts are. Those-
it was a very small number because most of it's going out in fiscal 16. And I'm trying to put a number on it. In the bond fund.
While he's doing that, trustee Sabo and the rest of the board, I would just mention that under the CIP bond fund, line item 720085-640, that's where the stormwater improvement projects are located, the remainder that we've already approved that we're moving forward with, and that's $928,815, so it's almost $1 million. That's in Fund 72.
There is no money in the budget for the Opticom. It's a fiscal 16 endeavor. So there is no money, no Opticom money budgeted in the bond fund this year.
Well, even if it's 2016, it shouldn't be in there.
Okay, but there is none in there.
Thank you. And I just want to say, and I think it's been iterated before differently, that all items that are listed in the budget, when we approve, doesn't mean that they are automatically going to happen, because you do bring it back to the board.
Trustee Sabo, I have to apologize. John and I were talking about your last question, and I didn't hear you. Could you
Well, I
repeat that?
repeated especially
apologize.
for you.
I apologize.
I said because we are approving the items in the budget, does not mean that they are automatically going to happen, that the projects are brought back to us in detail.
Yes. Yes, there are always a number of large projects, just like last year, when you budgeted for the stormwater improvement projects last year, those came back to you and you voted on them, so there's always, that always happens every year. Yes, you're correct.
Right,
He's just budgeting for them in the upcoming year, and then anytime we spend money, it comes back to us for approval.
Yes, and I just wanted to make that clear. And then
Okay.
hear it iterated again. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Mayor, I have a few, but I'll give somebody else a chance if they.
You're up, go right ahead.
Okay, thank you. Page 1, and this is, I just have a question. It says 2015 final budget, gaming tax, and then underneath for 36,000, and gaming license, 27.5 budget or projected. Now, is that money supposed to be used for, like, the public safety programs? Is that where Opticon, is that going to be?
There's two different sources of revenue.
Right.
You have permitting revenue, which goes into the general fund. That's the permit that they pay when they get their gaming
Right.
license. And then you have the taxes that come from
Coming
the
in.
state. And that has been reserved by village board action. All those tax monies have been reserved for Opticon right now.
Okay, so it's
At
there,
some point in
okay.
the future, because there's more coming in than we had anticipated, so at some point in the future, the board will have to decide where else they want to spend that money.
Okay.
But right now, we're going to save it for Opticon, probably for a couple of years.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Does
think.
does that explain that?
Yes.
Okay.
I think also that we discussed a couple more, I know at least one more location for Opticon, which I believe was in front of the school. So there are going to be more Opticom
Right.
systems put in
Ultim-
place, so
right.
as we're
Ultimately,
getting more money in,
Right.
don't forget, we
When
were
the
also
county-
adding them.
When the county decides to further improve Bell going north, then you may have other Opticon expenses. That's correct, Mayor.
Great. Do you have any other questions,
Yeah.
Trustee Suze? Go ahead.
I'm just, page 3, and I'm just picking this out because it's a individual instead of a group, the intern contract. So when it says projected at 14,688, that means it's for the 1 year. And then the final for the 2015, it's 2736.
Right.
So is that because he's going to be working more?
No, the 14 actually isn't for a whole year. It wasn't a whole year that he was here, so it's a little.
Well, it
it's
says,
that-
okay, it says the 10-month, it says like the 10-month was 11,000, then projected, which isn't that for the
His
whole year?
contract started in September,
Okay,
Right,
so it's 9 months
right.
in fiscal 14, and fiscal 15, it's
oh, so
projected for a
the
full
over
12 months.
overlap,
Right.
Yes.
okay. Just so I know how to use. Okay, this one, if you can explain, because this is my first budget with you. Page 19, the debt service fund. If you look at the home rule sales tax, and maybe I'm not misinformed on here, the 10-month actual is shown 1,700,000. So if you take 10 months, we're pulling in about 170,000 per month. And then it jumps up for projected, which projected should be just additional 2 months. So it jumps up. So how are we, what are we expecting to pull in at 350,000 per month?
Home rule
When-
sales tax is 3 months in arrears. It's actually 5 months left. There's 5 months more to post.
That makes sense.
And that's because of the state's not paying it.
And only you would know
Well,
that.
Sales tax is always 90 days in arrears.
Right. It doesn't come in immediately. That's
It
the-
doesn't.
But it doesn't come in.
Doesn't come in immediately.
And we have no seasoning, so I didn't book a receivable for it. It will be on the, it will be on there when the statement gets audited, but that's what it is.
Okay, yep, okay, that explains that, okay. Thank you, and let's see here. Just a quick question on page 20, contractual, what is this under? Contractual services, professional fees, the 387,000, is that like projected for architect fees or
That's
putting
for
that in for the budget?
Any professional fees that relate to Woodbine or other capital project stuff that the board may choose to do.
And when
A
you say,
majority of that, though, would be, a majority of that money would be for potential architectural services.
something like that, okay.
Right.
And then underneath where it says other capital projects, 717,000, what do you mean by other capital projects? What would that be?
Look for our-
Let me see.
On that same page?
We'll look at our notes here and get back to. We have a specific list, right?
Yes, we have,
Speaking of like street fish.
we have the engineering and construction cost of 151st at Parker, which is approximately 480,000. Actually, Opticom is in there at 15,000. I misspoke earlier. And so that's the capital project fund, that's not the bond fund.
Okay,
Farmview Lift Station has a line item for inspection and maintenance, which is 50,000. I'm sorry, 15,000. And then there's a contingency for any other other capital projects that could surface of 50,000. So we also have a place setter for a Bruce Road improvement, which is offset by a contribution. It nets to zero, but it is part of that line item. So,
And we put that in every year's budget, just so
Right.
it does not get lost into the future, which sometimes these things do. So same as we've often brought up every single budget cycle, the donation from Gallagher and Henry for the park. So we try to keep those in every budget so they don't get lost.
okay. I think, and then I think that's it. I also want to thank, oh, I don't know, I might have missed it, page 12, the Environment Fund, that it says we started at 60,000, and I didn't know we had that. Or maybe Margaret, you can help me with that?
your.
I mean, Trustee Sabo, I'm sorry.
Your projected fund balance at April 30th, 2014 is $60,159.
Okay.
We didn't
We-
transfer last year.
Plant
Well, no, we
some
did that one
trees.
time,
Yeah, really.
Plant some.
last year.
Yeah, most of that, a good portion of that balance is attributed to the one-time transfer that you made last year. You transferred some excess general fund revenue into that fund when you established it. And so
Okay.
that's why that's a little bit higher than probably it's been historic. Well, you didn't have the fund, so,
It's-
yeah.
Fiscal 14 is the first year. of
Right,
that
this
fund.
is the first,
Right.
okay.
Okay,
And I just-
does that answer your questions?
Yes, and thank you for all your hard work on the figures.
Okay, I believe trustee Costa had a question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. John, if you could just explain something. One of our residents, John, had asked about one of the funds where, I think it was $1 million was transferred into it. If we remember a few
The
months ago.
land acquisition fund was
Right,
the one.
if you could explain what happened there and why, that's by ordinance, we actually did that.
Well, that was, the land acquisition fund and the capital project fund and the bond fund purchased Woodbine with their surplus funds.
Right.
And that was where that, I believe that's the million we're talking about, $1 million.
Well, I believe what John was asking is we were putting a lot of money, over $1 million into a fund. Wasn't that the transfer we took out of John?
You know what, that's really, that's gonna be booked in April. Now, the board approved, the village is expected to have about a $400,000 or $500,000 operating surplus this year. And we've had a lot of them, so we've built our fund balance up so considerably higher than what typical underwriting would expect to see. They want to see 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. So we're going to bring that back down to good underwriting standards, which is going to allow us to transfer $2 million out of the general fund, 500 of it going to the Park and Rec Fund, and $1.5 million, is that correct? I might have been mixed up. $1.5 million going to the land acquisition fund. I get those
I
two
believe
mixed
the
up. The board
$500
approved it last month,
We'll clarify that. I don't
but it was a
think
$2 million
It
surplus.
is.
I believe the 500,000 was we
Was
created
for
a new fund
trees.
for.
Oh,
Right,
for the,
right.
for
Trees
the
and the
cap,
remainder was for Park and Rec.
yeah, the tree replacement
Tree
fund, which is
replacement
really a restricted capital project fund.
Correct.
So that was 500 and $1.5 million going to the Park and Rec fund.
That's
I just wanted
why
to
the budget-
explain for the resident, because he questioned where the money come from. about.
Right.
Okay.
That's why the budget shows on the Park and Rec Fund, if you turn to that page, at the very top, right-hand side, you see a beginning balance of 2.4 million, which is the most they probably ever had at the Park and Rec Fund, and it's because of that transfer that you've already approved. So-
All right, does that answer your question, Mike?
Yes. just
Thank you.
clarification.
Are there any further questions?
One,
Go ahead.
unless Ted has, trustee
No,
Kajan.
go ahead.
No, you go.
start it.
Go ahead.
Trustee Sabo?
It's your birthday.
What a nice present, thank you.
Not for long.
Okay, on page 12,
Beware of Greeks bearing gifts.
on page 12, it shows a transfer under the general fund of 20,000. And is this for tree replacement?
Well, it was, it's an inflow of funds from the general fund, and it was seed money to start the environment fund.
That's for last year.
And we are not budgeting any in 15, because if we do, you'll exceed the SLP number 2 for how much money you're supposed to have in it.
Right.
So,
If you recall, last year, the board created these couple funds, the festival fund, special events fund, and the environment fund, and you gave those funds seed money last year. It was an action the board took. So that's seed money from a decision that you made last year for budgetary purposes. It was those two funds. Was there another fund?
it was the special event fund and the
Special
environment
and
fund.
environment, both got seed money from the last year's surplus.
They had, you had special events that were building up surpluses, and it was and we wanted to parcel it or partition it from the general fund, and that was why we did it that one time.
Yeah, that was like a starter.
Right.
Right.
Correct.
Okay, now, I'm looking in here for the transfer of the 500,000. I'm looking for the tree replacement project, and where will I find that?
That's Fund 71, and it would be on page 22.
On page,
22. The transfers are to occur this month, this fiscal year. So so this fund is gonna begin fiscal 15 with a $500,000 fund balance.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to catch up. On page 22?
Yes.
Okay, so that's why, I see the 500,000 at the bottom.
Yes.
Okay,
Is
and
it-
so we don't know how much we're going to use each year.
Well, there are some anticipated expenses in here, but they are, it's based on
Projected.
how many trees.
The expectation was that we would transfer this $500,000 into that fund, at least this is how I presented it at my budget workshop presentation, that we would transfer that $500,000 in and see what we can do with that $500,000. Obviously, the board has to come up with a program. And then if you want to add to that money later, that would be a board decision in future, budget years, if you had money that was available either from excess general fund revenue or you wanted to take it from another fund. That's something the board could do in subsequent years.
Oh, okay, when I look at this, I see numbers starting under the projected. And then I do see 125,000
Right.
for final. Is that the figure that you want to start with?
Well, the expense for tree replacement that I put in, I think I went over that during the budget presentation. It was I can't remember what it was, $600 a tree, a certain number of trees that tied back into the tree survey that was completed. And I thought that no matter what program the village comes up with this year, that I personally couldn't see us probably spending more than $125,000 in 1 year. But If the board decides during the course of this year, after you approve a tree program, that you want to spend less than 125 or more than 125, you have $500,000 in that fund, and you can make those decisions at that time.
Okay.
So that 125 is in there as a place setter, and it was based on $600 a tree times whatever that number was that was out of the tree survey.
Yeah, okay, so this could start, the best time in this
Fall.
year is to plant in the fall.
Right. It would be to develop a program over the next like 3 months, advertise it to residents, and then do an RFP and get something ready to go in late September, middle October.
Okay, does that answer your questions, trustee
Yes,
Sabo?
that answers that question.
Okay, are there any more questions?
Two real quick ones, if I may.
Go
Mr.
ahead,
Mayor.
trustee
Real quick, and
Kajus.
most of the questions were answered off my list, so thank you all for asking and answering. Appreciate it. Just a couple more questions, if I could. I see that we've talked about in the past, and we had money in the budget for last year for codification of ordinances.
Right.
We have a budget on page 19 for another 14,000. Where are we at on codification at this?
Well, it is a complicated process. I won't
respect
say
that.
anything else. I've talked to it a little bit about it on and off, but I probably need to give the administration, finance, and then the board a kind of a written update on that. So if you give me, a couple
That's fine.
weeks, I'll get you an update.
That's fine.
It is a complicated process. And we knew that going in because we had waited so many years to do it. And so it's taking a little bit longer than we thought, but we're gonna knock it out this year. Hopefully 2014, we're gonna knock it out.
Excellent,
Yeah.
outstanding, thank you, I appreciate that. One more thing, and that is on regarding, I brought it up in the last meeting, I just would like to just bring it up one more time for clarification, and that is actually on page, it's under the environmental fund regarding, what do you call it, the professional lighting.
Is that page 12?
I'm sorry, page 32. Under, I got it on 32, it's line item number 4 on proposed major environmental fund initiatives. Budgeted $12,000 for professional service assistance to investigate potential lighting ordinance in violation. I had brought this up at the last meeting, and I asked that question to trustee Sabo, and her comments back, if I wasn't mistaken, and maybe I'm paraphrasing, was not to create fines, if I understood that correctly? Or is this to have fines associated with this?
No.
Just for the record.
Trustee
well,
Kajanis, just if I could real quick, just
Yes.
for everyone's benefit, because I know you have the original budget. Some of you
Okay.
are looking at those, and then some of you are looking at the
Okay.
budget that was attached to the ordinance. So the budget that's attached to the ordinance, that's on page 12.
Okay,
Okay.
sorry
On
about
page
that.
Just so,
12.
yeah, 12 under contractual services towards the bottom of the page. Okay, sorry. Trustee Sabo, sorry for the interruption.
So,
It's a $12,000 amount under lighting
Budgeted.
violation professional services.
correct.
Okay.
I asked this question the last meeting on the workshop, and if I understood it correctly, it was not for creating fines, imposing fines.
My understanding of that line item is that is, it's under, first of all, it's under professional services. So it's meant to pay for charges the village has to consultants that we utilize. And in this instance, we have a consultant that we utilize for, to review lighting plans. So this money has been put in there for the consultant to assist us in case there appears to be lighting violations in the community. If a business, or to establish a baseline, if we can try to establish some kind of baseline, so we can refer to that when we think that people have made changes in lighting, but we're not certain. So it could be for any kind of professional services that we would use for our lighting consultant. And I would assume that if we spend any money out of that line item, since that's a new thing, that I would let the board know that we were spending
Beforehand?
money out of that line item.
Beforehand.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that if that's what you're
Okay,
asking.
yes.
Yeah.
I think the board should be updated.
Okay, does that answer
Before-
your questions there?
Yes, that's fine.
Well,
Just-
just to address trustee Kajanis, it wasn't for fines.
That's what I thought you said last time, so I just wanted to.
No, I said not for fines.
Right, exactly. I thought that's what you had said last meeting when I asked the
That's what he was
question.
saying. It was, yeah, I remember
If I
the
understood
conversation. It
correctly.
was about education mostly,
It was about
of the
education.
lighting ordinance.
Yes.
Okay.
Trustee Yukich, I believe you had a question?
Yeah, I just have one. On page 14, proposed major general fund initiatives, number 8, budgeted to add 1 full-time administrative assistant position with corresponding decrease to part-time staff. Who are we moving around and how is it paid based?
Well, we still need to have one final discussion about that, probably in executive session, personnel related, but we had talked about it previously, about taking a part-time staff person that we had on staff here and moving that person to a full-time position. So I budgeted for that accordingly. I'd rather not talk about it right now, because I think the board still has to talk about that one more time and probably establish, give me advice on establishing a salary and things of that
Okay,
nature.
all right.
Okay, are there any further questions?
Well, and just in a related issue, in related issues, I know that there are other projected increases in salary, but the manager always brings that to the board to evaluate.
Right, oh, absolutely. We have to, John and I use, our best estimates on what potentially we can afford and what we think the ultimate amount would be. We look at it very carefully. We put all the existing salaries down, we look at a potential cost of living, we look at what a merit program might be, and then we come up with numbers. It takes quite a while every year. Ultimately, any cost of living increases the board has to approve, and any merit increases the board also has to approve. So those are, again, place setters like you do every year.
Okay, are there any further questions on the budget? Madam Clerk, please. What?
We have to go back to the two motions by trustees Costa and Squeeze.
Okay.
So
Amend the motion.
trustee Sabo made the motion, and trustee Kajina seconded. So can you just withdraw your second, please?
Yes,
Okay,
I
you
withdraw.
can withdraw the motion, withdraw your motion.
Yes.
Okay, and then you would move to adopt now you would remove to adopt the budget ordinance with the changes proposed by trustee Costa with respect to line item 70-00-85-605 and trustee Squeeze's comment with respect to line item 72-00-80-505. Is that correct?
Yes, I concur with what the attorney has read, that the manager has placed in front of you.
Okay, so that's your motion, and then we need to get a second.
Is there a second? Trustee Kajanis?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a first and a second to reflect the changes that were discussed here. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo? Aye. Trustee Kajanis?
Aye.
Trustee Sabo?
Aye.
Trustee Squeeze?
Aye.
Motion carries. This would be K7. Is there a motion to waive permit extension fees in the amount of $64,228.01 for 3 skilled nursing facility buildings due to weather-related issue in the Victoria Village development, and apply a $100 administration fee for each permit reissuance for a total of $300 in administration fees based on the completion dates as specified by owner/contractor.
I move to waive permit extension fees in the amount of 80% of the $64,228 to become a permit fee due of $12,800 for 3 skilled nursing facility buildings, and apply a $100 admin fee for each permit reissuance based on the completion dates as specified by the owner and contractor.
So moved. Second.
Are you changing the motion? Okay, well, I'm asking for, the motion was, is there a motion to waive permit extension fees in the amount for the way I read it? If there isn't a first and a second, the motion fails, and then you can bring up your motion.
I was gonna make a first on it.
Well, I thought
That's
that-
what she was.
Hold on.
like the attorney to
Let the-
express
You know what? Let the attorney,
It should just be, that's the motion that the chair asked for, so is there a motion to that effect?
I
is
so
there,
moved.
okay,
So you
I'll
have that
s-
motion.
I second the motion.
okay, so we have a first by trustee Sabo, a second by trustee Kay Janis.
Right, now you have
Now discussion. Trustee Squeeze, you were saying what? you would like to see?
Okay, do I say it as a move? I move to, or I just say,
No, you would like.
oh, discussion.
What
Okay,
is
my
your
proposal, okay, I think a reasonable, I understand it was a terrible winter for construction, and it impacted building, but our building department conducted over 50 inspections with many more to come, because this project is ongoing until the fall. So I believe a reasonable assessment would be to assess them at least 20% of the extended permit fees.
Joe, maybe you can answer this question. Joe Baber? With the change in the weather, or with the severe weather, and the fact that the lot couldn't get done out there, are you doing more inspections on the property, or just replacing?
Just the time frame is shifted. We're not doing any additional inspections because of the weather.
Okay.
So all these inspections would have been conducted anyway.
Okay, so do you follow, you understand that, Trustee Suisse, correct?
Yes.
There are no additional inspections, so I don't see any reason why to do an 80-20 with them. What do you call it? Are you going to withdraw that motion, agree?
Well, it's not a motion.
or-
There's a motion on the
No,
table.
we're just
I take
discussing.
you're correct. There's a motion on the table, right? How do you feel about the explanation that Joe just gave?
Oh, I
Trustee Suisse.
understand, well, I understand that, but I think, I don't think we should waive $64,000 in fees.
Okay, all right, so that's Trustee Costa?
2 comments, Mr. Mayor, if I can. Joe, if there's a reinspection, do we charge the contractor for reinspection, like if something fails or
Yes,
something, we
yes,
have to
we
go
do.
back? So they will be charged for reinspection on a specific item.
Anytime anything's failed, there's a reinspection fee, and that doubles, triples, depending, if they keep failing the same inspection.
Okay, and also on this, Mr. Mayor, if I can, one more
Sure.
comment. It was a tough year for construction, and I can attest, I've got a couple projects myself out there that I'm really behind on, and it has put my customers in a bind because they expected the project should be done earlier, and the winter put us really far behind. I don't have a problem with waiving the fees. I feel that the type of construction that was done on that and the weather that we had, and this is the first time I can remember in a long time that we actually shut jobs down because of the weather for safety of the men. So there were a lot of days we lost. I don't have a problem waiving the fees on this.
I don't either. I think it was either the second worst winter ever, so I thoroughly understand what went on. Trustee Yukich?
Thank you, Mayor. Joe, same thing. On this, with the inspections that you had to make, they paid for the permit already one time. So in essence, they really haven't used everything that they paid because they weren't working. So all we're doing is,
We actually didn't even start the inspections till May. They'd gotten the permits in January. So there was a 5-month period where we weren't even out there.
okay. So so in other words, they have money that hasn't really been used up. What hurt them is just the weather, the snow, and pretty much like everybody else. Okay, I'm on board.
Okay, then, is there any further discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Well, I just had a question.
Oh, sure, go right ahead.
$64,000 is a lot. I mean, we're setting a precedent here, and I think Trustee Sees was trying to come up with an adjusted figure that they would only pay 20% of that. I don't see anything wrong with paying a small amount of it, but a real small amount is just $300. That doesn't sit well. I know that a lot of people, a lot of construction has been hampered by the weather, but I don't want to see this total $64,228.01 just completely waived.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo?
Aye.
Trustee Janis?
Aye.
Trustee Sabo?
No.
Trustee Suisse?
No.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, this would be the workshop item. Tonight's workshop item will be led by Village Manager Davis and Development Service Director Salamovich. They will give the board a quick update on the Will County Bell Road reconstruction project, as well as inform the board about the county's request for additional information from the village regarding this project. Cam, please begin when you're ready.
Mayor, we'd be happy to do that, but I know it's been a long night. You have one additional item, K8. You have one additional item,
Oh,
K8.
excuse me.
That's okay.
Yes, excuse me. Before we get to the workshop, I did miss one. This would be K8. Is there a motion to approve a special village board meeting for Tuesday, April 29th at 6:30 PM to interview potential architectural firms for the village's new village hall remodeling project?
So moved.
First by trustee Costa,
I second.
second by trustee Swees. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee DeVivo?
Aye.
Trustee Kajanis?
Aye.
Trustee Sabo? Aye. Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, we have the workshop tonight. I read the description of the workshop. Go right ahead, Village
Thank you, Mayor. I just say the county, after you made your recent decisions about Bell Road, the county came back with a couple fine-tuning questions that they have. And I'm going to turn it over to Mike, who says that he could get through this very quickly with your indulgence. So Mike, if you could go ahead.
Basically, if the board recalls, the county had requested some additional information from us regarding the Bell Road improvements between 151st Street and 159th Street. The three items that were approved by the board at the March 25th meeting, one was the addition of the preemptive signal devices, the Opticon at the intersection of Bell Road and Meadowview Lane. Second item was the concrete sidewalk along the west side of Bell Road, and the third item was grass medians where barrier medians were to be constructed. On April 15th, the county sent the village a letter asking for some clarification on some items. One of the items on the Bell Road improvements between 159th and 151st, on the north end where 151st Street is, the county is planning to cut short the public improvements, not all the way to the intersection, but basically they're gonna match up. It's gonna be 500 to 600 feet short of the actual intersection, because that intersection was widened several years ago, so there's no need to extend the project all the way to the intersection, so they're just gonna tie into that point. But since we're asking for sidewalk on the west side only, the county is asking whether or not the village wants us to either terminate it where they're planning to terminate the project right now, or if we want to extend it to tie into where the creamery sidewalk already exists. Staff's recommendation is to extend it, since it's, overall, it will cost less to do it at this time rather than to come back and do it again later. Obviously, those additional costs, since it's not part of the project, there may be some additional costs such as storm sewer removal or replacements and adjustments, some additional grading and things of that nature. But again, if we were to extend this at a later date, it would actually cost more to do that. So that's the first question was whether or not, where do we want to terminate the sidewalk on the northern end of the project? And again, staff's recommendation is to extend it all the way to the creamery sidewalk. which is
Okay,
already existing.
let's go through these one at a time then. How does the board feel about taking the sidewalk to the creamery as staff recommends? Is everybody pretty much in favor of that?
Yes,
Yeah, now, Mayor, if I could ask a question, is that
Sure.
gonna bring the sidewalk, take it all the way then from Meadowview Drive, which is the light, all the way through Meadowview subdivision, past Woodland, and then all the way to Creamery? Or are we still going to have a section without a sidewalk?
No, it would be all the way,
All the way?
all the way.
Okay.
Now, obviously, there's a second question, which is where we terminate the south end, so. But yeah, it would be all the way, at this point, from what you're saying, yes, it would be from the Meadowview intersection all the way to the creamery.
Okay,
And
so
then there's excuse me, Mark, sorry, then there's a sidewalk, of course, across the street by the gas station. And then we're just missing a segment out here by M&D. And then, of course, we have our sidewalk here that eventually goes into the path. So as soon as this property next to us is developed, then you'll be able to get all the way from your subdivision, Mike, all the way up, hopefully, to the shopping center. So,
okay, go with the next one then.
Okay, next one is where do we want to terminate the sidewalk on the south end? The county is going to be taking their improvements roughly to approximately the middle of Nick's parking lot. So they've asked us, where do we want to terminate the south end of the sidewalk? Staff's recommendation is to terminate it at the Meadowview intersection at this time. Obviously, it would make access to the schools, and at a later date, when the Sears or the Kmart property does redevelop, the additional sidewalk to that location can always be included at that time. But again, at least we would be terminating it for access to the schools at this point.
I would recommend it, just from what I know. We're dealing with a group right now for redevelopment of the Kmart property, and we really don't know what that project's gonna look like at the end of the day if this party moves forward. So I would recommend what staff is recommending, that we stop at that point, and when that redevelopment takes place, that would be part of their project. Is everybody pretty much consistent with that? Go ahead, Mike.
I'm sorry, Mary, question. So the redevelopment of that, would it go to the north to Woodland or to Meadowview Drive? Because that's really off of that property's limits. It's, it'd have to go past Nick's, past the bank, and then there's a home there.
Right.
So can
So
we
add
ask
a-
them to continue the sidewalk all the way to the next street?
So what I think staff is recommending is Meadowview right now. When the Sears Kmart property redevelops, at that time, work with that developer to create the sidewalk there to make sure that that can be done, because we're not quite sure, given the topography and everything, that sidewalk can even be done there.
Gotcha.
See, that's the thing. So our concern is Trustee Costa, is if we extend further south through, Nick's and all these, that you might be building a sidewalk into a parking lot, because we're not quite certain that we can actually build a sidewalk in front of the Kmart Sears property yet.
As long as we keep it in
Right.
our minds that when it is developed, we try to get that extended, so we
Sure.
have a sidewalk from basically 159th all the way to 151st.
Right.
Right.
Thank
The
you.
I
one-
agree.
The one thing that we will have, of course, as you know, is the south extension of the Heroes Trail will go through Meadowview, down the comment lines. So even if you're at that Meadowview intersection on the sidewalk, and you still want to get down to 159th, you'll just have to go into the Meadowview subdivision and then hang a left at the Heroes Trail and head right down to 159th. You'll still be able to get there.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, go on, Mike.
Third item, brief item, Will County Department of Highways is going to be installing IDOT seeding, which is a salt-tolerant roadside mix in the barrier medians. If Homer Glen would like to propose an alternate seed mix, the Will County Department of Highways is requesting this information. Since staff, we just received this letter a week ago, we will do some research to find out if there is any additional alternate salt-tolerant mixes and get that information back to the board as quickly as we can.
So what I suggest is, recently Trustee Salvo and I went to a seminar at the very nice Arboretum, and they were talking about a seed mix that a local retail organization had. We did a little research into that seed mix, Jim Walkowski did, and he found out that it's not very tolerant for salt. So that one might not work, but we still want to dig a little bit to see if we couldn't potentially use a seed mix that we could use as an example to the community. Okay, this median has a low need for water, so we still want to do that. But we can't give you an exact seed right now, so if you just kind of leave that in our hands, we will look and work and try to see if we can't find an alternate seed mix we could suggest to them. Then we could draft a letter and send that to the county and tell them that we are still investigating seed mixes that we might suggest to them.
We all agreed on that already.
Okay, very good,
Okay.
thank you.
Anything else, Mike?
That's it.
Okay, then that concludes the workshop. Is there any old business?
Mr. Mayor, just one
Yes.
fast comment.
Go ahead.
Earlier in my report, I mentioned that we're looking into a special needs hours or afternoon for our event.
Mhm.
What we're trying to do, Mr. Mayor, if we can, is keep that to our residents in our community this year. This is the first year we're trying it. We know that it's going to come with some challenges, and we're certainly reaching out to residents that have been involved in this some time, but we want to make sure that it's manageable for us this year, and hopefully if it works out the way we're hoping it will, that we will be able to extend it in the future. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay, let's see here then. Thank you, Mike. Is there any other old business?
I do have something.
What's that?
I have something.
Go ahead.
The attorney placed this in front, a memorandum in front of all of us. and I just read a little bit about it. If you look at, and it pertains to the amended liquor ordinance. If you look at the third paragraph, there are some options that he talks about. And then he says that he would like our direction before responding to the emails. I think that we ought to have a discussion on this rather than sending in our opinion to the attorney, because this does involve other applicants that have applied for an ordinance during the time that we had we're in the process of amending the ordinance.
Actually, the memo, if I could see the copy for
Yeah,
just a second.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. The memo was emailed to everyone on March 15th. At the email addresses. I'm sorry, April 15th. At the email addresses that I have for each of you. And I had asked trustees Yukich and Costa this afternoon or this evening whether they had received it, and they don't recall seeing it. But I checked down at the far end, and
I got it.
and they had received it. So
I had not received it.
okay.
So there we are.
It was sent out.
Well, I
And-
believe you. I
Right.
just didn't get it.
Right, okay, that note I'll fire the secretary tomorrow. So in any event, I asked Heather to make copies of the document, and I put it on everybody's plate so that there's no question about getting it. The memo is in response to, or is generated by emails that I received from two applicants for liquor licenses about what a restaurant constitutes. And the memo lays out what I believe are three options. There certainly could be others. But we're looking for direction, collective direction from the board. So I agree with Trustee Sabo that this is something everyone should digest and it can be discussed at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, you're very kind.
Okay,
Well, another present.
okay,
It's your birthday.
Yes,
is
thank
there
you.
any other new business? Okay, now, the village attorney notified me that we really don't need executive session if nobody has a problem with the motion that would come after the executive session. We've discussed this before about the water ordinance that has to be passed by all the different communities. So, with that being said, is there a motion to approve ordinance number 14-023, an ordinance authorizing the acquisition of a water system?
So moved.
First by trustee K. Janis.
Second.
Second by trustee DeVivo. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo?
Aye.
Trustee Janis?
Aye.
Trustee Sabo?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Trustee Yukich?
Okay, with that being said then, we did not need an executive session. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. First by trustee Costa, second by trustee Sabo. All in favor say aye. All opposed say nay. Meeting adjourned.